the world with nothing but green salad. Where are the fruits and vegetables at? Well, that has to do with vertical farms' biggest Achilles heel. Let's use vertical farming's most beloved and popular crop as an example, lettuce. This table shows an average yield of lettuce in different types of farms. You can see that the vertical farms have much higher productivity than traditional farming. A small container vertical farm can yield 14 pounds of lettuce per square foot, as much as 33 times more than the industrial open field farming and over 20 times more than a hydroponic greenhouse. This doesn't just work with lettuce, it happens with most other crops you can grow in a vertical farm. So yes, vertical farms are way more productive than normal farms.
I'm gonna go check out the bud files.
But that doesn't make them profitable. There's more to the equation than just growing more lettuce per acre of land. What if you have no shortage of land? Then that doesn't really matter, right? It comes down to the price of a head of lettuce. No one's paying more for the same lettuce grown in a vertical farm. And this is where it gets complicated, because vertical farms have costs that traditional farms don't. How about electricity? Running all those LED lights and robots 24/7? So that's going to eat into your profit. Well, here's what I found for a full year of vertical farming. Notice that contrary to what I initially thought, electricity doesn't make up most of the cost. It's less than 10% of the total cost of a head of lettuce. The highest cost comes from labor, which, as I mentioned before, is more expensive than a normal farm. And in this case, contributes almost half of the overall cost. The second highest expense is capital expenses. This comes from high initial investment in everything from equipment, sensors, heat pumps, AC, heating, cooling, and the like. And then there's the maintenance of all that equipment. And that works out to a cost of $5.26 per pound of lettuce, or about $4 per head. And that's the price at the farm. Imagine what you might end up paying at the supermarket. Take a minute to think about how much you paid for your last head of lettuce. Let me know in the comments below. This will depend on where you live, obviously. I'm guessing it's less than $5.25. How about in a traditional open field farm? Here's what the cost would look like. The numbers speak for themselves. Producing a pound of lettuce on a field costs 6 times less than a vertical farm. Yes, you can argue that there are higher shipping costs because farms are further away from the people that need them. But these supply chains are super optimized and add very little to the actual end price of lettuce. Vertical farms' problem isn't that we're using LEDs instead of free sunlight. It's that labor and capital costs are way too high. In farms, you don't even have to worry about how much your land losing value will cost you every year, because it doesn't lose value, it's farmland. In a vertical farm, not only do you have to spend hundreds, sometimes millions of dollars to set up a vertical farm, but that farm loses value over time as your assets and equipment depreciate. And if you're wondering, what does a head of lettuce or a pound of lettuce cost here in the US? About $2.60. And that's to the consumer, which means that the wholesale price that the farmers are selling it at is $63 to $1.26 per pound. And that's why these farms just cannot compete, especially if where they're established have high labor costs, easy access to normal farm produce, and high electricity prices, which describes a lot of the European markets that this was targeted for. Ultimately, the entire industry was predicated on a bet that vertical farms established right near customers with higher levels of sustainability and better water management, which is all true, could produce a product that was cheaper than a developing nation with copious amounts of sunshine and rain normally, and the cost of shipping it. And that gamble just didn't pay off. But there is a silver lining. Most large vertical farming companies are relocating in hot and arid climates where there's a lot of renewable energy, like in the Middle East. This is what's making huge construction projects like Saudi Arabia's line possible. How else do you feed millions of people in a linear city? Also, while many companies are going under, the vertical farming industry at large is actually still growing with a compound annual growth rate of about 25%. If we figure out how to further automate these farms and the hardware and prices go down as economies of scale are reached, could we actually see this work? And the answer is kind of maybe. Ultimately, this is still a wager between humans and engineering versus Mother Nature and the sun. And where you fall kind of depends upon your outlook. But if you thought this was interesting,